Just curious, that's all. Has it affected dating, work, friendship, and so on? Story 1. Approaching women is like working in door-to-door sales. You might have to go through 100 rejections until you get a sale. But there's only so much rejection and nastiness that a man can deal with over a certain period. By and large, women give the impression that they don't want anything to do with you, even if they do. And I wasn't bad with women in my earlier days either. Flirting is like a game, and sometimes you drop the ball. Generally, that doesn't matter, but there is a subset of women who feel the need to announce to the whole world that you're a creep and destroy your reputation. There isn't an equivalent experience for women. Story 2. There's a huge list of reasons why. First and foremost is the number of times you'll hear women say, "We don't want to be bothered at work, the gym, the grocery store, etc." It gives the impression that there is absolutely nowhere women want to be approached. Second is the huge risk of doing so in the first place. The worst they can say is no is just false. They can make a scene, shout that you're a creep, then freely assault you under the guise of self-defense. They can even throw out accusations of sexual harassment or assault, and because the general public is so quick to protect women, there is literally nothing you, as a man, can do about it. There's far too much risk involved in trying to approach women, and women have a vastly disproportionate amount of power in the exchange. Why would I risk my reputation or legal troubles when the messaging from women is, "We don't want you to approach us"? Story 3. Somebody asked this like 3 days ago. Here is my answer from back then. You might get rejected, and whatever confidence you might have will be further shattered. You might share common friends or environments, let's say classmates, and it might become known, and you will be gossiped about, or at least become known as that guy who got rejected by that girl. And that's for situations where you approach respectfully and she responds in kind. I don't even want to consider nightmarish scenarios like if she ridicules you or files a complaint. Story 4. You know the saying, the worst she can say is no? Yeah, that is nonsense. I have seen men get laughed at, made fun of, have drinks thrown at them, be assaulted, and worse. It's just not worth the risk anymore. Story 5. A better question is, why are women afraid to let us know they want us to talk to them? Very few of us are going to approach a woman we find attractive because, as the top comment at the time of writing this said, we've been told not to. Good men generally follow the rules, and the rule is, don't talk to women who don't want to talk to you. I know a lot of women love the idea of some handsome or smooth stranger breaking the rules to come talk to them because they're so taken by them. It's pretty attractive and romantic, but look at it from the guy's perspective. That's the quickest way to be labeled a creep if she's not into you or that. Only 1 in 10 women, if he's lucky, will be both single and receptive to his advances. That's 9 chances for him to be labeled a creep, 9 chances to face a harassment charge. Granted, most women won't react that severely, especially if he's not too aggressive and maintains a respectful disposition. But just like women like to say, you never know who's a rapist, so you gotta play it safe. Men never know who's gonna overreact. It's just not worth it. She's not worth it. So, I'm sorry, due to your sisters on TikTok, your man-hating friends, and those who like nothing better than to crush a man's ego by rejecting him, belittling him as harshly as possible, and then going on to destroy his reputation and make him a joke just to feel powerful. Most of us don't think it's worth it to cold approach. Sorry, ladies, you can't have it both ways. You can't have only the good and good-looking guys come approach you without also attracting the creeps. You can't tell men not to come talk to you without permission and be upset that your romantic fantasy of some attractive stranger surprising you out of the blue isn't fulfilled. You can't say, I'm dressed this way for me, not to attract men, and then go out looking all attractive to catch a guy's eye and be disappointed that the type of man you're hoping to attract doesn't approach you. Just the creeps and the rule breakers. You all are the ones saying a man needs to get consent for everything and then hoping he doesn't listen and takes it anyway. You all built the rules, so if you want him to talk to you, you've got to let him know somehow. Sorry, that breaks the fantasy. You all control sex and dating, and these are the rules you all set. It's really no wonder that women seem to only be meeting people who disregard the rules, as they're the only ones bold enough to break them. You all said don't come talk to me unless I want you to, and then sit there hoping he comes and talks to you without you clearly letting him know, because you have a fantasy or don't want to appear easy or desperate, or for whatever reason. You all made this bed. Story 6. I cannot remember the last time doing so was a pleasant experience. I have not even had catastrophically bad experiences. More often, it is confused disinterest with a, "Who are you?" 5. Story 7. I read a survey that 80% of women want a man to make the first move. In that same survey, 75% of men will not make the first move because of a variety of factors, such as being called a creep, making things awkward, misjudging the situation, and not knowing what to say. It also stated that 25% of women, mostly young women, believe that any form of a male approaching is harassment. With all of that information, it is pretty easy to see why most men will not approach a woman. Story 8. I was always someone who never liked to force myself onto someone else, letting relationships build naturally. I've come to realize that as a man, you must make the first move or nothing will occur at all. Story 9. I am not afraid to approach, but it is not worth it because too many women are volatile. They will make a problem out of anything the moment they feel slightly uncomfortable. Story 10. I wouldn't say afraid. I don't approach strangers in public settings because that isn't socially acceptable anymore. I am not going to look for a partner at work because that could pollute the environment if things go poorly. The older you get, the smaller your available social circle gets too. Dating apps are a waste of time and predatory. I know what I want, and I am not going to waste my time on people that aren't it. Story 11. Not anymore, but I used to suffer from basically putting the pussy on a pedestal. I thought they were just too good for me, that their beauty and sensuality were amazing, and I was simply not worthy. I can't remember exactly what age, but eventually, I stopped doing that and saw them as equals to me, with as many flaws physically and mentally. Story 12. Women said they don't want us to, then proceed to say that it's fine as long as we check a ton of items in a list. If we don't often get to hear a simple "no, thank you." Besides, I have a mirror at home. Story 13. Because they are so kind and receptive to guys who are less than 6 in looks and are worth less than $1 million. That warm, cozy, inviting feeling can stick with you. Story 14. It is not a matter of fear, but there is far too little potential benefit with clearly identifiable risk components. As with venomous snakes, it is simply better to observe them from a distance until they go on their way. Story 15. I have anxiety. This sucks. I could change it, but honestly, the catch-22 is it's got to be worth it for me to change it. Not a lot of time on my hands, and most women aren't worth a damn or think I am not. So, I'll just vibe, hike, go to my spots, and do my own thing. Story 16. It's not a problem now, but as a low self-esteem teen, I had some pretty horrid beliefs about myself. I was never bullied or anything, looked alright as far as a gawky teen can, but I had these beliefs from how I grew up. I try to challenge these psychological quirks of mine, but my fear of approaching women was that they would see me how I saw myself, as a loser, reject me, and subsequently confirm those beliefs as being completely correct, which could destroy me. So, yeah, I would actively avoid contact with girls, apart from the handful of tomboy friends who were good friends out of instinctual self-preservation. Luckily, I realized that so many of us have this fear, that it wasn't just me, and that compared to the rest of society, I was actually not a bad catch and pretty capable at stuff. This is just my experience though, but I think every single person views themselves differently from how the rest of the world does, and sometimes we need to ask ourselves if we are actually being realistic with our self-perceptions, whether they are overinflated or underinflated. Story 17. People usually do not like being rejected. Since men are the ones expected to approach women, and because women almost never do it, they may feel superior. More often than not, women rate themselves from 1 to 10 as higher than they may actually be. Therefore, if an average-looking man approaches an average-looking woman, she is likely to reject him. Later on, when these women reach their late 30s, they wonder why they are still single. Story 18. I am always fascinated by women who won't approach men, asking why men won't approach women. The underlying reasoning is the same. Approaching strangers carries a risk, and more often than not, the risk simply isn't worth it. It's worse for men in a sense because we are expected to be the ones who approach, and we've been told not to approach women. I hate to say this, but I get it. The fantasy women have been sold by our American culture is a fantasy of the perfect man approaching you with the perfect approach, and the woman just falling for that guy. The problem is, there is no one perfect man. and the percentage of men who are good-looking enough to fit the perfect man rubric is vanishingly small. And there is no one perfect approach. When men are told not to approach women, what's really going on is that women don't want to filter through all the mediocre men, those not fitting her particular fantasy, to find the perfect man, which means the perfect man for some women will not approach you at all, because they don't know you want them to approach you. So why don't women approach men? Likely the fear of rejection, the fear that their perfect man is taken or not interested in them. The fear that the person who looks like the perfect man turns out to be a creep. So women, based on this societally constructed fantasy, put the entire burden of the emotional labor of approaching strangers on men. Then wonder why men are unwilling to do the emotional labor for them. Honestly, if you're a woman and you like someone, saying hi to someone you like, because we men have had this emotional labor foisted on us in an atmosphere where we get little, if any, positive emotional feedback, will actually be far easier for you. Most men are hungry for anything to relieve this emotional demand that has made many of us a little bitter deep down inside. Story 19. Women want only certain men to want them. The trick for men is sorting out where you fit into her rubric. Some men are into playing that game and others are not. Story 20. Fear of rejection, honestly. But cold approaching doesn't have the best rate of return anyway. I've been pretty satisfied just talking and asking women out who are in my circle, knowing them from school, work, or through a friend of a friend, and then meeting a couple of women through online dating. Also, please know that many of these answers are for men who spend too much time online, which should not be confused with men in real life. Additionally, I genuinely do not want to bother people since I know most women are already being approached by many guys. Story 21. Many reasons. I personally like to be left alone mostly. I assume others want the same. Interrupting someone is rude. Women tell horror stories of being bothered by men. I try to be respectful and think of others. If I bother someone, I'm very self-critical and will take it personally and try to reflect on what I did wrong, even if it was nothing. The last thing I want to be seen as is just another cocky guy making advances. I'm a smart, genuine individual and very much don't want to be a stereotypical man. I was overweight and nerdy growing up, so I'm constantly worried about being judged. I am not overweight now, but don't view myself like others view me. I don't know how to differentiate between friendliness and flirtiness. When in doubt, I assume friendliness. It seems rather arrogant to assume a random person is attracted to me. It actually feels worse to generate interest and be unaware of it in the moment than it does to be rejected. I've worked really hard to get in shape. I've worked hard to be more outgoing and confident and less socially anxious. Rejection makes it feel like none of that matters. Logically, I understand the rejection may have more to do with her, but emotionally it still hurts. I don't approach men or initiate conversations with men either. For different reasons and mostly just wanting to be left alone. But I'm not in the habit of or confident in just randomly talking to people. Just social anxiety in general. I'm in my 30s. I sort of missed the time in my life where it made sense to be approaching women. There's no reason to try and change that now. Story 22. The bigger question is, why is it solely on men to approach? Why are women so afraid? Why do we have to take all of the risk for so little reward? We are not afraid is the answer. We are tired, and we are demanding women pick up a little of the slack. So the real question is, why are they declining to do so? Story 23. Throughout my life, women have shown a healthy degree of callousness relative to my mental health. I'm a man. Therefore, it is surely okay for women to laugh in my face when I ask you to dance. You can say ew to my face when I ask you on a date. You can stand me up on countless dates because I guess I don't matter. That being honest with me is too much work and you'd rather I feel desperation and solitude. The number one reason I've struggled with my sense of self-worth is the way women have treated me in various ways over my life. Ironically, my mom and grandmother kept me going. They'll give me compliments and I'll make life work. For them, our society by and large has taught women to be a lot different than they were decades ago. Most of those teachings are great, but the collateral damage has been their level of tact and respect, at least in my experience. Story 24. I am no longer, but it was the perfect combination. generalized anxiety disorder, major depressive disorder, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, childhood trauma. I mean, no wonder I didn't have a girlfriend in secondary school.